Hey folks, it's Mark Gentili from Sudbury.com. I got an Earl Grey in my hand and a camera in my face. And that means it's time for tea with the editor. Some 1,800 missing and murdered Indigenous women. They represent maybe 4% of the Canadian population, but Aboriginal women account for 16% of all female homicides. It's a chilling statistic. Aboriginal women suffer violence at a rate that's 3.5 times higher than average. They are 5 times more likely to die by violence. The National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls was launched a year ago. There are complaints about it, that's true, but it remains the first national effort to look specifically at the root causes of violence against Indigenous women and girls. Greater Sudbury has made its own effort in that regard, though. In March 2016, Swakamuck Native Friendship Centre partnered with Greater Sudbury Police Service on a 2-year pilot project. The pilot does a number of things: outreach and education, raising awareness. It's a strategy to help loved ones better interact with police when a woman or girl is assaulted. Heading up that project, which has the very long title of Looking Ahead to Build the Spirit of Our Women Learning to Live Free from Violence, is Lisa Osawamick, the Friendship Centre's Aboriginal Women's Violence Prevention Coordinator, and Constable Shannon Agowissa, Aboriginal Liaison Officer for Greater Sudbury Police Service. Thanks for joining me for tea, ladies. Did I get the names right? Did I pronounce them right? Was I close?
Yes, yeah.
Good.
Okay, perfect. Those are chilling statistics, and I think maybe like what goes through your mind like when you hear those numbers? I mean, it's one thing to read them on the page, but to kind of reflect on them, they're pretty startling.
As an Indigenous woman, you know, my concern is for myself and my daughters, and I also I'm very passionate about the work that I do. As I have a family member who has been murdered, so on my mother's side, and so you know, I believe that this work that I do came to me, to you know, just help in ways that I can.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this work. Let's talk about this pilot project. 2 years ago, like where did it come from? Like what was the root of this initiative? Did it start with the police? Did it start with the Friendship Centre? Where did it come from?
It started with Chief Paul Pedersen when he came to the service in 2014. The Aboriginal Liaison Officer, who has since retired, Grant Doe-Peace, was in that position. Right? Yeah. So he, having heard all the missing, murdered Indigenous women in the headlines, the chief wanted to know what we were doing locally. So he approached Grant.
What were we doing locally?
So as part of the coalition to end violence against women, I sat as a member for the last, 4 or 5 years, and so as part of my work through the coalition, I was at the Friendship Centre in addictions as an addictions worker. Sure. I would spearhead, co-coordinate this annual Sisters in Spirit October 4th event. So what we were looking at when we invited Chief of Police, or when the discussion started to happen, was like around that time. I think he came October 1st to the Swakamuck Native Friendship Centre to have discussions around missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, and then that led up to our Sisters in Spirit that year. And I think we invited you to speak at that event too.
Oh, that was that. Okay, because I spoke at one event, but I can't remember which year.
That was the one. Yeah.
So that would have been because he came in, was that 2013 or 2014?
2014 he came.
When he came, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I guess maybe one thing that people have, like you said you were already involved in the strategy, the violence prevention strategy. I guess why the need, I guess, to separate out First Nations people from that strategy? Like why? I kind of want to get to that idea.
Well, I think you hit it like right on the number, with the higher rates and, and just where we are coming from, like the history of Indigenous peoples and the intergenerational traumas that we've experienced. So I think, just, and then at the time with the it was all over like national news, and that was like what we see on media, even to this day, like another missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. Like, and I go through my news feed, I see one a day, missing, and so they're constantly putting out those posts.
It sort of happens with such regularity that it almost ceases in a really sad way to kind of have an impact. You know what I mean? It's like when you see something happening over and over again, it loses that sort of emotional weight. That's kind of why I wanted to start with talking about like just getting those numbers out there, because they're really high. Like those are really high rates.
Yeah. So from the project, there was an initiative that came out from, I forget the contact, it was Ryerson University students with Shades of Our Sisters.
Yes.
So they reached out to you, was that?
I reached out to them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that was a really good, I guess a good awareness through an event called Shades of Our Sisters that we brought here at the beginning of this year, which highlighted 2 missing and murdered Indigenous women's lives.
Okay.
And they really, they set up a beautiful exhibit, really looking at the story that those women lived and
So
how
like
they lived.
like sort of more like their entire life. Like they're sort of not, so it's not just numbers.
Yeah.
It's actually
They humanized.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
It came from the families. So the families were there. They gave over pieces, artwork, poetry, videos, and you really, when you talk about statistics and just looking at numbers, it really got people to experience what it is to, know someone. And then one of the mothers, Joyce, she was there as well. We know her now as Mama J, but yeah, she really let us in and to experience her daughter's life. It was very special, and we had many community members come out.
Yeah.
And as well as police officers. We had some of our TAC unit come, and from different units come and be able to experience that.
It really seems to just talking about that exhibit and that experience. I can really see it in your face. Like you can feel that. You still feel that emotion from that.
Yeah. It was really. I would say if you were ever to be around that exhibit, Shades of Our Sisters, go and check it out, because you get to walk through and really, it really hits and impacts you, and yeah.
Did it come to Sudbury? I know it went to Espanola, but
it did come to Sudbury.
Oh, it did, eh?
Through this project.
You guys brought it in.
Yes.
Way to go. Did you get a good turnout? Did people come out for it?
Yeah, we had, I'd say, estimated about 300 people come through for 2 days.
No, that's pretty good.
At the end of May.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. Now, the project. Let's talk about the looking ahead. Can we just call it looking ahead?
Yes.
Yeah, is that okay? Okay, so can you give me if you could sort of break it down for me? What's the pilot project trying to do?
So for me, I would say one of our end goals is let's work together to not have any missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls here in our city.
Okay.
Another end goal would be let's bring more awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and the issues that come with that.
Okay. What about from a police perspective?
Absolutely, we're trying. Policing has been changing over the years, where it used to be more just about enforcement, and now we're looking at, what can we do to prevent violence from occurring. So this is an exact outcome of that sort of thinking, and also just trying to build those community partnerships. And this is such a special, it's so near and dear to both of us, being able to have the police service and this Wakamuk Friendship Center come together for this project. And then Lisa, who's been amazing at making partnerships and going out to so many of members of the community and service providers of the community and educational establishments of the community, and bringing everyone together to
Making
be
those
proactive.
connections.
Yeah.
So the goals, like you sort of listed off what some of the goals of the project are. How did you go about sort of coming up with a framework or something that would allow you to kind of achieve that? So how has the project achieved those goals?
That was really great how it came to Shannon and I. I think I just gave her the ideas and she just went ahead and wrote everything.
So really, I mean, this is your baby. It's the two of you.
Well, it's the communities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because we heard from the community.
Okay, so take me back and let me and feel and like would sort of walk me through that process of coming up. How did you come up with the goals? How did you come up with the framework? Like, what was the first steps? And
So
such?
the framework came from Kanawituin training that,
What's that?
Also came from from Lisa and the project. So that's training from the
Ontario Indigenous Federations of Indian Friendship Centers.
OFIFC.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So they had
long
their own,
acronym.
yeah. I know. So they had their own booklet from the Kanawituin training.
Okay. What is the
and
word you're using?
Kanawituin.
Okay. Kanawituin?
Yeah.
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 No, wait,
Does it mean? What is it?
It means taking care of our spirit.
Okay. Is it Ojibwe?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Ojibwe.
okay.
So from that, there was a booklet that they put out, and it was put out in the medicine wheel teachings. So that was how this was sort of, we wrote it in that way as well. The writing came from trying to what is the situation here in Sudbury? What is our Indigenous community? What is our community? And then going to the community and having Lisa, I was on mat leave at the time for the first community consultation, but that's where the ideas of how we're going to move ahead. So that's really, like our goals and where we're going really has come from the community.
Okay. So how did you, like, one of the things you said was sort of identifying who the community is. How did you go about that? Like, who is the community? How big is the Aboriginal community in Sudbury?
It's a quite an interesting and eclectic group of people.
I bet.
Yeah, because we have local communities like Atikameksheng, that's my community. Wanapate, First Nation. We have so many, and that's just within the Greater Sudbury Police Services service area. But of course, we know that the Anishinaabe community is all, I don't know how to put that.
It's sort of spread out around the region.
Yeah. But then we have so many communities that are surrounding us. I think I named within 150 kilometers. There's
Right.
about 8.
8 communities?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we're also looking at people that are here because of the things that Sudbury has to offer, like Laurentian University, College Boreal, Cambrian College. So, and also our medical care. So we have people coming in for using,
So it's eclectic.
Oh yeah.
And then so we have like Ojibways, we have Cree people, we have some Haudenosaunee. Yeah, we have Métis, we have Inuit population.
Right.
So
And I assume there's a mix too of people coming from remote communities to Sudbury to either study or to find work or to do whatever, plus people from closer to more urban areas moving in. So there's a real sort of mix of people, I would think. Okay. What about demographically, like age-wise? Are we talking? Is it a lot of young people? Is it a lot of older people? Is it a mix? Is it?
I think it's more like youth, youth and young adults.
Well, if you think about coming for education, it's typically the coming after high school.
Yeah.
But-
Aboriginal people are I think the fastest growing demographic in Canada.
Greater Sudbury, what was it, the projected statistic, it was like for 2000, and I have to remember exactly, but we were one of the top cities for projected Indigenous population growth. Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, this partnership is valuable. Then, I mean, there's a big community here that you're not only, you know, the sort of Indigenous community, but then the non-Indigenous community as well. You're reaching out to all of that, right? That's a big job. So how do you break that down then? Like, how do you go about, you know, doing that outreach? You know, you've identified the community, you came up with your goals and what you wanted to do. What does that outreach look like then?
So you know, we host a variety of different you know, sessions, so or events that we open to the public. Like usually when I put out for example, when we had the lateral violence training, so I sent that out to, you know, mainstream organizations and Indigenous organizations, and we had a nice mixture. And some police came, and even community members came.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like some students, and so it was really nice because I think that's the way throughout the last year and a half was really bringing together the community to build relationships, you know, and we've seen it at our year in review. That was a very successful event where we highlighted the work that occurred over the last year, and we gave everyone who attended the strategy book, and we brought together several different organizations. Yeah, so.
What's that relationship like? You're talking about, you know, you've said that you managed to draw in like a pretty wide mix of people. What's it like? Like, are you getting a lot of interest from the non-Indigenous community about, you know, the work that you're doing and trying to sort of understand the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women? Are you getting a lot of, you know, outreach from the?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I would say it's positive feedback or positive participation from non-Indigenous communities.
Now, those are like these workshops that you're talking about. What do they do? What are you doing in them? Like, what are people coming there and learning about?
Well, there could be many different things. So there could be domestic violence. There was the circles that were ran out of the Health Sciences North. So we would talk about street safety. We would talk about
living free from violence was one topic.
We also have been able to take part in, and that was a big one that came from the community, is different artistic expressions. So there was like pulling threads workshop, and there was
pulling threads workshop. What does that mean?
That was from out of North Bay, right? The ladies.
The theater company that they said, oh, we heard about this work that you're doing. It would fall in line to our upcoming theater production. We bring all the supplies. You just host us, and I don't know. We had about 20 women come out and, you know, make little pattern cloths about you know, their lives and about what experience violence looked to them, or a lived experience, and put it onto material, and they took all that material and they're putting it into a larger piece that is going to be as a part of their upcoming play.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really good. And then we had
vision boards.
we had
a lot of these things that are being able to have. I think it's the women being able to come together and talk.
Right.
Just like
why is that important though? Like, why? Like, you make a point of saying, you know, it's like a place for women to come out and talk.
Yeah,
so
because you never know what someone's going through, and some of the people's stories that they share when they feel comfortable. It's truly healing. and it's being able to be a part of that, and some of the stories that come out are really, really powerful.
Is there one that you could share without identifying anyone? But is there one that was particularly moving for you guys?
I know there was one for me, and it was during the vision board making, and one of the people were sharing sexual violence within their own family, and they spoke about that, and that's all I'll say about that.
But the work that you're doing, it's got to. I it's important work, and I assume you're getting an immense amount of fulfillment out of it. But it's got to be heartbreaking sometimes.
There's sometimes, I forget to leave my work at work, and I go home and, I'm checking, my emails to making sure that, everyone's okay, or just, so I'm really, sometimes I struggle with that, but really trying to maintain my own personal well-being and keeping balanced, and some of the stuff too that we've been able to bring through the project is like ceremonies, and so that's really helped me be able to remain grounded in the work that I do.
Okay, what do you describe what you mean?
Women's sweat lodge ceremony. So getting the women together and going into to the sweat with them, and really being able to just do my own prayers and my own healing work as well.
Is it unusual for women-only sweats?
In our area, sometimes it's hard to find a all-woman sweat. So
really?
Yeah. So
is that just sort of a feature of the local culture here, or?
No, it's usually co-ed.
That's what I mean.
It's just, I think it's because of the facilitators, and sometimes it's just easier to get the men and women to go and sweat together. So. Okay. Yeah.
So you would people who are participating, it would be part of the work is to have a sweat sort of together. Wow, that's very powerful. So you sort of take you take sort of the culture, and then use that as part of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and then we've had pipe ceremonies. Yeah, so that just getting again the women together and offering our prayers to. Just to be able to live in a good way, and heal. Hand drumming. Yeah. We've had so much.
We wish we could have brought our book. We keeping all the posters from all the events from over the course of the year, and it was amazing. And especially Lisa, when she talks about being able to take care of herself, that was so key, because we were afraid she was going to burn out, because she was just moving along, and it was amazing though. Yeah.
Well, you got to have to. It must require you guys to give, so much of yourself to sort of, because you have to give so much of yourself to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to have, I'm one person, but when I have Shannon there beside me, to keep me on track, or to help me with different events, and that's the team, I think, and that's that relationship between police and Indigenous people.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just really, it's good work. It really is.
And a big element of the plan is just kind of what I was curious about too, and I just sort of reading through the material and stuff, and it was the idea that part of the strategy has to be to make it easier for families to interact with police, and I was kind of curious about that, and why that needed to be is there friction between police and Indigenous people, or what is it that?
Well, historically, the relationship between police and Indigenous peoples has not been good, and it still continues. You hear many headlines about negative stories, and I think that sometimes it's really, really difficult when a police officer as well, and you talk about almost like an oppressor So looking at it from that way, sometimes it's really, really difficult because as much as, you try, sometimes it's just a no for some people, and that's okay. But we really are trying, and we're just trying.
By we, you mean the police?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's a difficult relationship. I don't.
Is it because are Indigenous people like you? I mean, I don't want to generalize, obviously, but is it like a sort of are police looked along with some distrust, or is it an unfamiliarity with how the process is going to go, or is it kind of a combination of all of that?
Just recently, we had we also facilitated a lunch and learn day for our police officers, just internally with residential schools, and just trying to.
What do you mean, with survivors of residential schools, you mean, or on the topic of residential?
On the topic of residential schools, and Orange Shirt Day.
Oh, on Orange Shirt Day. Okay, sure.
At the end of September there. So with that, trying to get people to understand about how Indian agents used to go into the homes and take the kids out, and they were the people in uniforms. And then someone like even my auntie, who went to residential school, when she tried to run away, my grandma was told that she would be charged criminally if she didn't send her back. So those types of, and those are, that wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
And the last residential school closed in 1996. So we just try to get people to have an understanding of, some of the events that occurred.
I assume that has to go, I mean, like, because I like what you're saying, that it's not just about, outreaching to families, but there's work being done internally with the police to educate sort of officers, right? Sensitize them, make them aware. That has to be an important element of this, I wowould think.
Yeah. So that was another thing that came out of the project is we brought up George Cucci.
Yeah.
So he's from the Nipissing area, and he was a police officer for a number of years.
Okay.
So he's able to understand that he's able to understand police
from both sides.
Yeah, from both sides. And he's just a really special man in that he can. He's such gentle and funny, and he comes from such a good place when he's delivering knowledge.
What's the name of this firm?
Red Tail Hawk.
Just so we can give him a shout
consulting. Yeah. Yeah, he's if you Google his name, he's got all sorts of articles and stuff about him. He's a really, really special guy. So Lisa and I got to go go through his training in Wawa. And it was so neat how he was just able to open people up. So being able to bring him back to our service was like we were like, yes. Yeah. And sure enough, it was so successful.
Yeah. He sounds like quite a guy. I'm actually glad you brought him up because I was kind of curious about. I mean, we're talking about it's missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Where are the men in this? So, I mean, obviously there has to be. You can't just talk to women and girls. Men have to be an integral part of the scenario. So how are they worked into the project? How are they worked into the program?
All of the training opportunities are always open to community members.
Okay.
There's only a few times where it was very specific for women, which was like for the sweat lodges, and there was a few of the pipe ceremonies. But for the most part, we're always very trying to
open it up to both. I also have a really good partnership with Greg Brown, who is the Kije Enene worker at the Nisswakamunk Native Friendship Center, and he works with men. And so there was a couple times where we brought him in to do guest speaking, just getting him involved in some of the work that we're doing. Yeah. And he's pretty good to work with. Yeah.
What kind of questions do you get when you do these workshops? Like for men or from women? What kind of feedback are you getting from people who are participating?
We always get really good feedback. You know, for example, when we did the lateral violence workshop, one of the women who attended, who was a doctor at Laurentian University, she says, she called me up, she goes, I attended your lateral violence workshop, and you know, I'm really interested in doing some sort of collaboration with you in the next few months. And I said, okay, what does that look like? And she says, yeah, let's, you know, this is my special area, you know, I'm in with drama and arts. And I said, okay, so.
Okay, were you a little confused about what she was looking for?
You know, and she goes, what about this? And I said, she goes, what about a creative writing workshop? And I said, you know what, let's do that, you know, and then we can bring the women in, and we can, you know, write around our lived experience. And it was a really great collaboration with Laurentian University, and then from there we were even able to publish, you know, our work.
I Am Not a Poet. That's a great title.
I know. So that came from. So there's the list of the women that participated, and you know, they submitted their pieces, and then we dedicated the book to missing murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Wow. If someone wants this book, can they get it?
Yes, they can.
Where?
They can contact myself. I have a few at the Friendship Center, and I have a few at Greater Sudbury Police. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's
And the women, I just have to say, they come from all walks of life. Like and it was so neat because they would come back. Get like
week after week.
Yeah.
And then from there, we even.
it's got the red. Oh, sorry, I just noticed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's got the red dress on the cover.
From there, we even celebrated the launch of this book on International Women's Day.
Okay.
And we were able to have a Warriors Woman Showcase. That's what we called it.
Warrior Woman Showcase?
Yeah, and then we invited other community members that worked with women and to come and display their different expressions of art. And then we did this, and we read a poem, and it was just lovely.
Yeah,
it was a beautiful event.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to the police a little bit, just for a second. When you hold these workshops, this outreach, you do this work with the officers themselves, are you getting a good response from them? Like, are you getting good participation? Because, you know, sometimes police sometimes have a reputation, they're sort of alpha males and manly, and people kind of have people can sometimes pigeonhole police officers as being a certain type. But I mean, what kind of response are you getting when you're doing this work with them?
And that's the gift that George Cucci has. Is what he likes to do is, it's not just an hour or 2 hours and dealing with one topic. This training has been over the course of 2 days, and so he really he teaches about culture and the medicine wheel teachings and about the drum. And just giving a little basis for officers about smudging and the 7 grandfather teachings. And then he moves into a whole history right from contact. And kind of gives a little outline, and then starts talking about residential schools. Just a little bit on day 1, and then day 2 you get more into it, and he's very passionate about it because his father also went to residential school. And I've gone through his training now as a kind of helping him out when he came to give the police the training, as well as going through the training when we went to Wawa. And every time I'm learning something new, and he's just so good. And then we finish with a sharing circle, and we also get into current social issues. And then we finish with a sharing circle. With the final sharing circle, always ends up being so powerful.
Why is the final one so powerful? And what about it is powerful?
It's what's opened up. what I think is George's talent is getting people to open up to the human experience. So he allows people to relate to what it was to go through some of these things and to, go through life from someone else's point of view. And he really does build empathy. And I've had all kinds of comments in that sharing circle from, I thought I knew everything about residential schools, but he really, what he does is, because you could, where children were taken out of the home, and sometimes those can be just words to people, but he actually gets you to feel it. And so when you create that emotional, connection, then people just open up, and they can be really powerful. It's special.
It sounds like that making that emotional connection is like a big part of the Looking Ahead project. It's like sort of taking it outside of, the numbers are important because they provide that sort of scope at how big the problem really is. But it sounds like you've done an amazing job of sort of taking those numbers and then making it emotional for people, making that emotional connection so that they aren't just numbers anymore, they actually become people. Did you do that? Was that like a conscious thing that you wanted to do, Lisa, or did that just sort of flow naturally out of the process that you?
Yeah, it was definitely a natural flow to all of this. It started with a committee, just a small committee with Friendship Center staff and a few from GSPS, and then we just kept on plugging away, and then it became the project. It was like a flowering. A flourishing flower. It's really
there must
beautiful.
be some tears and some smiles at these things.
Oh, absolutely.
And it runs the gamut.
It was. It's been amazing to be a part of this. I'm just like, I just feel so like it does. It makes you feel good. And it's difficult some days, but it gives you definitely a fulfillment.
So when you see how well this project is going, what do you make? I just want to take it outside of the Sudbury area for just a second. When you see how well the Looking Ahead project has gone here, what do you make of the criticisms of the national inquiry?
I don't claim to be an expert on the inquiry, but people's healing stories or healing journeys are very specific to themselves.
Okay.
So this one thing that's going to work for somebody isn't going to work for the next person.
Sure.
So that's why you have to offer a wide variety of different options to see what's going to work for people. Because some people, even with the culture, like some people are connected more with the drum. Some people are connected more with dancing. Some people are, connected more with the stories and being a good, storyteller.
Right.
So whatever kind of works for you.
And not all communities are the same.
No, and like not all people are the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I think with our project here in Sudbury, it's really unique to the province, and I did hear maybe one or two other people, one from Southern Ontario and one from Northern Ontario, say like, how did you guys get that there? How come we can't have this over in our city? And so
that must be both flattering and like disheartening. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it's flattering that people are saying, "Oh, you guys are doing really good work here," but they're also saying, "Gee, like why can't this happen in my community?" You know what I mean?
So I think with when we go out to different communities, because we've had opportunity to go and do like display booths or presentations, really just sharing how we went about getting this project here and hoping that they can do something similar work in their community.
I like what you said about about how the national, because I thought when they announced the national inquiry, I was like, oh, that's really, I was like of two minds kind of. I was like, first of all, like, you know, whenever the government decides it's going to do something, invariably they're going to screw it up in some way, because, you know, they tend to think that they have this sort of, like you were saying, like they have this sort of top-down mentality, you know what I mean? They have to come down to this, and they don't sort of see from the bottom up. But at the same time, I was like, well, you know, at least, you know, there's some sort of effort going on. But I was sort of confused about how they were going to go about doing it. And it's, you know, it seems like they may have to kind of reset.
Yeah, reset. I think that's what they were talking about.
Yeah. Now, there's a conference coming up that you guys want to talk about, I think, eh?
Yes, we've been working hard at it.
So let's talk about the Honoring Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Conference that's happening at the end of November.
The project was it's a 2-year project, but we're going to see about, you know, what that might look like in the future. But for the second year, it was Lisa who had said, you know, I want to do something. I want to do something.
I want to go out with a bang.
Yeah. So the conference idea came out. So when did we first start having meetings for?
So the idea came to me probably about this time last year.
Okay.
And then I think we started working about 6 months now. We've been working on it, like having a smaller conference committee and building partnerships with other agencies. So we have a handful of agencies that are on board to helping out with the coordination of the conference.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's well on its way.
Okay.
And we have a few spots that are still left and open for registration.
Okay.
So we are one thing that's really I guess really important or really meaningful about this conference is that we've opened it up to family members of missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, where we've waived their fee so they could just attend and attend the different workshops. Or we have several different workshops from, you know, the healing from trauma, from learning about Indigenous women's social model, social media and missing, murdered Indigenous women, and then just so that's our way of honoring the family members, but also honoring the women, the Indigenous women that have gone missing and murdered.
And an amazing thing too is that many of the presenters, once they heard about the conference that we wanted to, they came out and gave it. Yeah. We didn't have to really go seeking out too many people.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was really special.
If someone wants to learn more, where can they get more info?
They can contact Shannon or myself.
Yeah, it's also on the Greater Sudbury Police Service website, has the registration forms.
That's November 29th and 30th in Sudbury.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. You had something you wanted to read.
Yes. So
Explain what it is before you do.
So in this beautiful book, I'm Not a Poet, the collective group wrote a piece called Looking for You. And so all of the women who attended the writing circle, they came up with 2 or 3 sentences of this beautiful poem. And so I just want to read maybe the last paragraph.
Please.
Yeah, so it's called Looking for You, 1181. Mother of 2, loving wife, found dead after doing groceries. She is loved. Someone will remember your name. Looking for you, looking for you. Litany of missing and disappeared women. 1181. Someone named you. Someone names you. Sometimes we will get to know the truth, and sometimes we will not. Last seen wearing. Do you see me looking for you? Do you see me? 1181 recorded and rising. Lost, missing, murdered. Last seen wearing. Looking for you. Looking for you. Don't forget me. The family misses her. She is my sister, and her spirit is everywhere. collective poem written by the Writers Circle, February 3rd, 2017.
That's some powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So I've read this, different conferences or different presentations I've done, and once I've read it, the people come and say, well, we want to buy that book.
Yeah, I imagine there isn't a dry eye in the place after that either.
Oh yeah, it really hits people. They really feel this poem when I read it.
Yeah, I really like the way you sort of bring in the arts and the culture to the process, and I think that is, from what I'm hearing, that it sounds like that is sort of part of the key to your success, is being able to find ways of making people feel comfortable, of connecting them to their culture, and then of using that as sort of the springboard, you know what I mean, for learning and for growth and for awareness.
And when you say that, it goes right to our title, looking ahead to build the spirit of our women, learning to live free from violence. Everything you just said, that fits right into this project title.
Tell me about the logo, because I'm really curious about the logo. It's got a strawberry, it's got an eagle maybe, and three women with their hand, or maybe three women, but three people with their hands raised. So,
in the beginning, we put a poster out to our community youth, asking them to submit drawing that would go with the actual title of the project. And so we had a few submissions from the youth, and then we took that back to our committee, and they were able to say, you know what, we like this one. And it was really, I guess it was really kind of neat, because they said, but we also like this one too.
Okay.
And so what they did was they put two drawings together. So the berry was on its own, and that was submitted by a young 16, or he would have been 15-year-old male named Mandego. And then the other drawing was submitted by another male named AJ. And so the committee put the two together, and they said, look, this is going to be our logo.
Sorry, go ahead.
So for the berry,
I just want to wonder what the symbolism is.
The young man who drew that said, he was, I guess he has that knowledge about young women in our one of our ceremonies for the rites of passage for young women is called the berry fast.
Is this an Ojibwe ceremony?
It's mostly common to Ojibwe territory, Anishinaabe people. And so he just submitted the berry. And then so AJ, he put this as past, present, and future women, but to look ahead at the healing from violence by using our prayers to get taken by the eagle who flies closest to the Creator. So putting those two together made this.
It's pretty amazing that it was two young teen boys that came up with that.
I know.
That's pretty impressive.
It's really special, really special.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So what's next for the program? The pilot project ends at, I think, March. Am I wrong?
So there's, we're going to try and keep it going. It was grant funded, so there's...
So provincial grant, federal grant, do you know? Or?
Federal.
Yeah.
It's a federal grant?
Justice Canada.
Okay. So fully funded by Justice Canada, or any local money in there?
No, fully funded by Justice Canada.
Can we put some pressure on the Police Services Board to throw some money at this thing? That's what I'm getting at here.
It would be terrible to lose Lisa. She's been really the strength behind this whole. I almost want to call it a movement. No, we're our voices are being heard. That we want to keep this going.
And I just recently held year 2 community consult, and it was again community members, community agencies coming together, following up from the first community consult, and again they're saying, we need to have this work continue in our community.
So tweet at Ward 2 Councillor Michael Vagnini, who's on the Police Services Board. Tweet to your MPP, tweet to your MP. Let's see if we can keep this thing alive past the, let's keep this going. I want to thank you guys so much for donating so much of your time to me. I really want to thank you both Shannon and Lisa for sitting down and having tea with me. I really appreciate that. And good luck. And I hope this pilot project continues, because you're doing amazing work. It really sounds like you're doing amazing work. Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank the South End Salute for hosting Tea with the Editor today. I want to thank Lisa and Shannon from the Looking Ahead project between Ntswapak Native Friendship Center and Greater Sudbury Police Service. And I want to thank you for watching. For Sudbury.com, I'm Mark Gentili.